Can you comply with my request?
Where's your water department?
Ma'am, you're totally wrong. This would become a legal matter if you choose to go this route.
Should I go over FOIA law with you?
No, I don't need to do that.
Show me the statute.
Sir?
Can you show me the statute?
Sir.
Who are you? Right.
What do you mean, who am I?
Who are you with?
What do you mean?
I have the right to record, ma'am. I have permission here with me. I'll be waiting for the statute. Thank you.
I'll be waiting for the book, sir.
Ma'am, this is going to turn out a legal matter.
Okay, sir.
This is going to become a legal matter.
Today's video takes us to the Chicago suburbs of Illinois, where we're going to listen in as two bona fide attorneys, not YouTube attorneys, real attorneys, give us the real deal on what frauditors can and cannot do, and debunk a few myths that GoatBoy's been spreading. Let's all sit back, watch, have a good laugh, and most of all, enjoy, GoatBoy!
We are pleased this afternoon to have two attorneys from the law firm of Klein, Thorpe, and Jenkins to present this important information about First Amendment auditors. And at this time, I will turn the presentation over to Jim. Jim?
Thank you, Village President Black. We are very, very happy to be here, and thank you everyone for attending today. It's a great turnout. Okay, who are First Amendment auditors? First Amendment auditors are members of the public who enter public buildings to record their experience within public spaces and record their interaction with public employees. This is an activist movement that has really started over the last several years. Auditors refer to themselves as citizen journalists, and the motives are varied relative to these audits. I think mainly the idea behind these audits is to seek compliance with certain laws that governments have to comply with, First Amendment, Freedom of Information Act. So seeking compliance would be the altruistic motive. Some of the motives you'll see, and you may have experienced this, are to generate confrontation.
Oh, you got that right, sir, because arguing makes great content for a video upload, especially if the police are called. That makes it even better. You hit the nail squarely on the head, sir.
So that a bad audit, so to speak, can get posted on YouTube or other social media outlets and generate clicks. Many of these auditors have figured out a way to monetize the bad audits. So the worse an audit goes, the better it is for them in terms of getting traction on social media. Worst case scenario, some auditors may be trying to bait you as public employees into conduct that will generate or create a cause of action for a First Amendment auditor. Mainly, these auditors, they thrive on finding ignorance of the law and the resulting confrontation that comes from that. And what I'm here to tell you, and Mallory is as well, is don't give them either. There are some basic principles we're going to teach you today that should help you get through just about any audit that you face. Next slide. What rights? Next slide. What rights do auditors have? Auditors have rights that are provided under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution that protects their freedom of speech. Federal courts, including our own Seventh Circuit, have held that the act of recording audio and taking video constitutes protected speech under the First Amendment.
Oh, absolutely, sir. We don't dispute that, but what we do dispute is when these yahoos go in there and record people against their will when they've been asked not to, and then post it to YouTube, because YouTube has very specific rules on that. Yeah, well, I tell you what, man, you can exercise your freedom to film all day long, but just don't do it when people say, no, I don't want to be recorded, because then you're in violation.
And the explanation for this is because you may ask yourself, how does taking audio or video, how is that speech? What the courts have said is the right to publish the information that's gathered would be largely ineffective without the underlying right to record. And since all individuals have the right to enter public spaces and record in public, since they have that right under the First Amendment, they have the right to record their interactions with public employees. So I would say this, the right to record in a public space or an interaction with a public employee comes from the principle that the public employee in those scenarios, whether you're a police officer, a village clerk, a staff member, you have no expectation of privacy in the public space while you are working. And that is going to sound foreign to some of you, but that's the law. If you go into restricted areas, an expectation of privacy will arise. But when you're out at the counter, for example, you have absolutely no expectation of privacy in your work and what you're doing in terms of your interaction with the public.
This is all good and well, but again, I'm going to say there's nothing wrong with recording people in public, but what you do with that recording has a great deal of leeway on public media outlets, especially YouTube. No doubt about it, but let's carry on.
Now, I would say this, that getting through an audit successfully starts with that principle. If you understand and your employees are trained in the principle that they don't have an expectation of privacy while they're working in a public space and that they can be recorded, and that's not a violation of the law, chances are you're going to get through your audit successfully. Next slide, please. The right to record public employees really has arisen out of the case law that deals with recording police officers. In the federal case of Fields versus the city of Philadelphia, the courts held that recording police activity in public falls squarely within the First Amendment right of access to information. As no doubt the press has this right, so does the public. So it's been pretty well established for some years now that there is a right to record a police officer who is performing his or her duties in the public. That is well established. What has followed from that is that members of the public have a broad right to film interactions with other public officials that aren't police officers and other staff conducting business in public areas where there is no expectation of privacy. One area that we will talk about is taking audio tape of private citizens. So a private citizen that goes up to the clerk's desk in a municipality to pay a water bill, for example, has no expectation of privacy in terms of being recorded on video of being at the counter. However, conversations between that individual and the village staff, in my example, relating to, let's say, a past due debt on a water bill, those conversations are private.
Take note, FOIA clown. You don't have the right to record other people's private conversations. Yeah, frauditors in general, take note. You don't have carte blanche to record all the conversations just because they're in a public space. Bunch of clowns.
So individual citizens, while they do not have an expectation of privacy that will prevent them from being videotaped, they do have an expectation of privacy in terms of their actual conversation with village staff. One of the things you can do in terms of procedures, which I will talk a lot about, is create distance requirements between patrons, like you might see in a Walgreens pharmacy, to give a privacy distance relative to what's being said. Next slide, please. So this next slide is entitled Forum Analysis. And in terms of First Amendment protected speech, it's very important to look at the forum that's involved, which is essentially the location of the speech. When you determine the forum and the type of forum that's involved, you can then look at a framework on your ability to regulate the rights. Keep in mind, the rights of these First Amendment auditors are not unlimited. There are certain reasonable restrictions that we can apply.
Take note, you Palestinian goat herder, FOIA fool. Yeah, you don't have unlimited rights here in the United States. Yeah, if you want unlimited rights, you know where you have to go back to, don't you? I don't have to tell you, just get there.
So just briefly, in terms of First Amendment forum guidelines, there are four that we deal with. One is a traditional public forum, which, for example, are parks, streets, or sidewalks. These forums, these locations, are traditionally open to the public for expressing activity. The government may impose reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions on private speech, but these restrictions must be content neutral and they must satisfy strict scrutiny. Same standards apply to a designated public forum, which is an area that has not traditionally been regarded as a public forum, but which the government has intentionally opened up for speech purposes. This would be a public speaking at a public meeting. This would be a meeting room, a municipal meeting room, a library meeting room. The types of forums we are dealing with, generally speaking, though, with First Amendment auditors are either limited public forums or non-public forums. A limited public forum is an area that the government has opened for limited expressive activity. In those areas, restrictions must be viewpoint neutral in light of the purpose served by the forum. And then in a non-public forum, this is a space that is not by tradition or designation a forum for public communication. The government has much more flexibility to craft rules limiting speech in these areas, not prevent it, but to craft reasonable rules that respect the purpose of the forum.
Well, now, Mr. Attorney, there's a problem there because you used the word respect a few times, and these frauditors don't respect anyone, least of all themselves. They have no respect, not even for the mamas.
Non-public forums are public property where the purpose is to conduct government business and not to provide a forum for public expression. For example, a police department lobby where an individual can come in and ask a question or pay a ticket. A village hall lobby where someone can come and address staff relative to permit requirements, paying a bill. These are areas that are dedicated for specific business of the public. They are not like a park, street, or sidewalk, not like an area where traditional protest can take place because of the business purpose of these forums. And what I would say relative to forum analysis, unless a local government has taken intentional action through a policy or past practice to allow indiscriminate public use of a space for expressive activity, such as protesting, pamphleting, speeches, lectures, posting signs, the interior of a governmental building is likely to constitute a limited or non-public forum where there's much more flexibility in terms of our ability to regulate First Amendment auditors for purposes of our presentation. Next slide, please.
Take note, frauditors, the library, it's right, library, they can't pronounce the word library. Yeah, well, the library is a limited public forum, so next time you take your ass in there, behave yourself.
So when developing regulations and policies, which I would recommend you do in terms of your governmental space where First Amendment auditors are appearing, you have to follow certain principles. The policies must be reasonable in light of the forum that we just discussed. There's got to be a forum analysis. Policies must be viewpoint neutral. You can't exclude individuals based on the topic of their conversation. And the policies should convey a clear intent that the government opens the property or has opened the property only as a non-public forum for public business. Remember that auditors do not have a right to violate the law. They cannot trespass into private areas. They cannot be violent. They cannot unreasonably disturb the peace or prevent service to third parties. Next slide. Local governments can designate private work areas that First Amendment auditors or other members of the public will not have access to. This may include personal offices, workstations, waiting rooms, or other secure locations. A useful rule of thumb when designating areas is to ask yourself the question, would you as a governmental staff be required to allow traditional speech in the location? For example, could protesters gather in an employee's office to demonstrate?
Oh, that's a good question, Mr. Attorney. Of course these people can gather anywhere they want. It's their building. Their tax dollars pay for this building. They can do what they damn well please.
Obviously not. If the answer is no, you can regulate those areas as non-public or limited public forms. Next slide, please. So can you stop a First Amendment audit that has started? The answer is yes, but I would say only do so in extreme circumstances. There are very limited reasons to stop a First Amendment audit. One would be protecting the privacy rights of citizens. If a First Amendment auditor insists upon recording a conversation between a third-party citizen and village staff, I believe you have the right to reach out to law enforcement to stop that encounter. If First Amendment auditors disrupt governmental business, if the audit has gone so bad that they are in a clerk's waiting room or lobby disrupting governmental business, you would have the right to stop that audit. Again, I wouldn't do it personally. I would seek law enforcement, or if there's a public safety issue involved. Many times auditors will show up and hope you contact the police. And in some cases, hope they get arrested, because that will generally lead to at least an arguable cause of action that they can pursue. I would say this, contacting law enforcement should be done if things get uncomfortable, if it appears there's public safety issues, if there's extreme disruption. But I would recommend that reaching out to law enforcement should be a last resort. You should try to get through these audits, and armed with knowledge, I believe you will be able to do that successfully.
Oh, not to worry, Mr. Attorney. GoatBoy here's an Esquire. Yeah, he's a pro se dude. He doesn't know what pro se means, but he's a pro se Esquire, yeah. Well, GoatBoy doesn't care about lawsuits anyway. Yeah, he's been talking about suing Dr. Dave for the last 3 years. I'm still waiting to see that lawsuit. I'm going to leave the video right there, good people, because this was over an hour long. So we're going to chop it up into 3 or 4 pieces, and not to worry, I'll be back with the next installment before you know it. But in the meantime, if you enjoy watching stupid people do stupid things on my channel, please subscribe. Because when it comes to GoatBoy and other frauditors on YouTube, there is no end to the stupidity that they will do for clicks and views. Please check out my other channels, including Dr. Dave Frauditor Terminator. That features the 4 fabulous fools of frauditing. And if you need more entertainment, please check out my main channel, which has over 6,000 video uploads for your viewing pleasures. GoatBoy, just find a job. At this point, I don't care what it is. Find a real job, you bum. Cheers to that.
An ordinances book. Yep, that's correct.
Come again?
Is there any reason why these officers are here?
I got permission.
Sir, you cannot film me here.
Because the information you're providing is unlawful.
I don't want you filming me.
Call the sheriff. I have permission.
I don't want you to film me.
Don't get close to me. You want to go that route?
What is the reason for calling the officers here? I want to know what your job title is to see if you're able to assist.
Who are you?
Who am I? Who's the one who called the officers in the first place? Because this may become a legal suit now. This is transparency. I'm conducting an audit.
While I wait for the clerk to show me the statute about freedom of information, I need to do an inspection on the town, city, zoning and ordinances book.
I have permission. I have permission. I have permission to film here, sir. Ma'am, please ask your superior before disrespecting somebody of the public. Where's the water department for this town?
Don't yell. I'm talking to you softly. Why are you yelling at me?
Sir, please stop recording me.
Okay, I need to do an inspection.
I understand that. Please stop recording me right now. You do not have my permission to record me.
Okay, is your facility open to the public?
Not currently.
Not currently, okay.
Okay, can you comply with my request?
Where's your water department?
Ma'am, you're totally wrong. This will become a legal matter if you choose to go this route.
Should I go over FOIA law with you?
No, I don't need to see that.
Show me the statute.
Sir?
Can you show me the statute?
Sir.
Who are you with?
What do you mean, who am I?
Who are you with?
What do you mean?
I have the right to record, ma'am. I have permission here with me. I'll be waiting for the statute. Thank you.
I'll be waiting for the book, sir.
Ma'am, this is going to turn out a legal matter.
Okay, sir.
This is going to become a legal matter. Please comply.
Pass. I got a pass. Along with an inspection on the zoning
and Town Zoning and Ordinances book.
I'm gonna be conducting some business here. I'm gonna be recording it.
Ma'am, it's up to you, ma'am. And there may be a suit in the court of law for non-compliance. What do you mean who I'm with, ma'am?
I don't know what you want.
I don't know why you're giving me a hard time or a bad attitude. In order to do an inspection on a book readily available. Hi, ma'am. What's your first name?
How can I help you, sir?
Yes, ma'am. Can you tell me what's your first name?
Who are you?
The budget book, ma'am. I need to do.
I don't have. If you want to have a seat, I'll.
Sure, that's fine. Ma'am, I have permission to film.
I have permission. I have permission here.
Well, you see, the thing is, my good man. Anyhow, compliance is the key, folks.
Where does it state that?
Ma'am, I need stamped copies of these FOIA here.
Can I help you?
Yeah, sure, possibly.
I'm acting as press, ma'am. First Amendment.
And I also have permission here with me.
Okay, ma'am, you also have to abide by 2635.101 basic obligations of public service. Sir, I'm abiding by the statutes. It does not require a name in order to obtain record. Okay, well, you're talking unlawful. You're talking incorrect. That is not true what you just stated. Come again? Very rude. I'm not rude. It all shows on camera. You're the one who's rude. Well, anyhow.
No one really cares.
No one really cares? An inspection, if I wanted to take digital photocopies.
No, you cannot.
Absolutely, I can,
No,
ma'am.
you cannot.
Please comply with the law. Are you refusing service? Just tell me you're refusing service. Hand me over your business card and you will be hearing from my lawyer. If you go ahead and record, that means you're creating a public record and you cannot delete that off your personal phone. Your personal phone becomes a public record.
That's fine. I'll record it.
Okay. Well, sir, there's options to conduct business in person. You can't refer everybody to online. I'm not going to refuse my identification. However, I have not committed any crime. You cannot articulate that I have broken a law. Here's what I will tell you. Here's what I will tell you. Ma'am, there's no expectation of privacy in public.
You could just call me sir.
I'd like to file a police report of non-compliance about a employee that works here. Sir, I don't answer any questions.
You don't respect me. Why would
So therefore, I'm not obligated to provide any identification in this matter.
you talk about my wife? What does my wife have to do with anything?
No, I'm not providing an address, ma'am. I'm doing a general inspection.
What does my wife? Why put up a picture and say that's my wife of a goat?
Not in my uniform, however, I do have my clipboard with me. That is not lawful what you told me.
We're gonna have a ball at your cemetery. We're gonna bring you a rose, okay? We're gonna bring you a rose and we're gonna say you were dishonorable. He's attached to the affidavit too. He's part of the enterprise. You drew first blood. Just like you do with all these auditors, you draw first blood. In the next 3 days, I'm going to have a criminal enterprise community section, and it's going to be real well detailed. I got an attorney that's helping me draft it up and write it up. Scumbag. You're just a plain scumbag, man. You want to say why I'm upset and stuff. We're going to prove that you are breaking U.S. code. If I really wanted to be petty, I would take you to court.